Pretty tricky to film
couple of days. Safe to say I'm slightly biased, and on this issue you probably guessed from the speech I gave. What I'm keen to learn though is what have we actually learned from the last couple of days? What did you maybe learn that you didn't know about before that you could maybe share with other people? I want to go through a few kind of questions that I'm going to throw to you. I want to ask your opinion about how are we actually going to achieve that, that more affordable, more reliable, more low carbon power within the mining sector. Who's got to go first, and what are the next steps that we actually need to take on that front? Anyone want to kind of kick us off on that? Put your hand up. Zamarin here from Amarin, is he here? You want to start off? Okay, again. If you can give us your name and
My name is Arnold van der Merwe. Okay, I am the responsible of the workshop. So I think the next steps must be going in two ways. First way is, 100% renewables is beautiful, it's fantastic. And we have to go not only to the electricity, but also to the fuels, right? Today we talk about this. But then there are another very important thing, is the heat, thermal. So it's easy for a mine to, not easy, but it's quite easy to switch the electricity from outside. Coming first from fossil fuels, I make PPAs with outside and I change, don't worry, but the mindset inside the mine don't change. The thermal helps to change energy efficiency and all this stuff. So solar thermal, especially in countries like here or Chile, I think is the new rising. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else got any opinions on what we need to do next? Anyone? Hands up. You get to that late afternoon quiet phase, is Aidan Thomas here? Yeah, Aidan, come on, I'm going to pick on you now. What do you think we need to do next? Not necessarily from BHP perspective, given your expertise in the space, what do you think we could be doing next?
I think there's a few factors that we definitely need to consider. One of them is the kind of voluntary action and how we want to shape our energy decisions to either be a signatory for RE100 or if it's more industrial and cash solving issue like the PPA example, because that wouldn't be eligible to sign up for RE100. It's only taking the energy, it's not taking the attributes. So kind of your corporate position on climate change or energy policy needs to consider or needs to kind of dictate some of your energy options. And then on that kind of the mining side of things, our key challenge is the fleet and diesel usage. How do you change and get out of diesel if you want a low carbon future? Because I think it's pretty clear that the kind of electricity solutions are out there, but the kind of actual on the ground solutions in the material movement space are probably less mature. So tackling that angle is probably so your corporate kind of decisions and fleet movement are probably two key areas I see as issues for BHP and for all mining companies.
Okay. Thanks, Aidan. Anyone got an opinion they want to add to that before I go on to the next question? I think it's Emily. Oh, yes, the gentleman over here. You can throw the mic. I love the fact we have a throwable mic and it's got the corporate logo on it. You know when someone says, I want to sponsor the logo on a microphone, the last thing you expect is actually it's quite a big logo. You say, what's your name, please?
Ron Hall from Energy Power Systems, Caterpillar. Whenever I'm doing economics for projects, and economics play a very big part of the feasibilities for these hydro systems, I'm always forced into a position where I'm comparing economics for a renewable facility against rebated diesel cost. Which ends up being quite a low cost of delivered fuel. So as you saw in many of the presentations over the last few days, that then requires an AREA grant to make the project feasible. Is there a way that industry and government could come together on that, where instead of using a grant to offset a rebate, you can just full pay the rebate. And it would, in effect, on a long-term ATHOR view of the situation, reduce the government's overall obligation for the $42 billion a year diesel fuel rebate that they pay out to the industry.
Good point about the economy and how do we make that happen. What are people's thoughts on the finance options for implementing renewable energies? Anyone got an opinion on that? Simon, I can see Simon Curry over here. Simon, you got any thoughts on that?
I wish I was leaving tonight because I'm about to say that the most important thing you can all do is scrap the rebate. The sooner you wean yourself off that, the better for the long-term health of your industry. And I'm surprised that people can't see that. But looking at the finance, before I now change my plane, one of the things which is really important to note is how much innovation we're seeing globally around the financing of renewables. I'm actually meeting someone here tomorrow who is working for a new company called Estates and Infrastructure Exchange, which is the idea of putting project bonds through the London market to effectively bring in the trillions to project bonds are even more complicated today than hybrid energy systems in terms of implementing them. And we're seeing right across the world more and more different pools of capital. You don't just need to go to the big four and be told it needs to look like this. That's one of the things we're really, really pushing, from what we're seeing things like SoftBank. I'm very excited. Watch what's coming out of G20 at the moment, the communiques the other day, what will come out in the next few days. We're going to see real pump priming from the Japanese. So the Japanese banks, Japanese concessional. And one of the things from the Australian resources sector, Japan loves investing, loves partnering, and there's a real potential to bring in more and more Japanese capital into industries which they have historically done very well in, Australian resources. The new industries for Japan, which is all around renewables.
So keep the microphone for a second. The gentleman there said, can we get government to help? Do we actually need government to help anymore, or is there enough money out there to fund? I mean, everybody in the sector did it, there will be a huge amount of money needed. Is enough money out there for that?
I mean, you could take Australian resources sector, including Boyne and the largest users, Boyne, Tomago, Portland, 100% renewable, with a drop of the amount of capital which is available for renewables today. My partner was at the Intra Investor Summit in Berlin a month and a half ago. All the large investors are looking for is platforms, but they want to do it with clients like BHP and Oz Minerals. They actually are a little sick of the government auctions, reverse auctions around the world. They're looking for partnerships now. So BHP's 6 gigawatts, 7% of Chile. That's what motivates the Canadians, the Aussie supers, the German pension funds to actually go chasing and find someone like a Total Eren or whoever to support them. That sort of size is what matters.
Thanks, Simon. So moving on from that, Simon's saying no problem with the money that's out there. Out of interest, hands up, how many of you were fully aware of PPAs, power purchase agreements? Okay, and in relation to the finance options, how many of you have actually looked into that already for your particular company? Hands up, how many have actually gone out and started looking for PPAs? Okay, just one, just a few of you. What do you think is holding you back on doing that? Can anyone kind of maybe give us some ideas on what's holding them back from looking out for a PPA? Anyone want to put their hand up and give us an opinion? No? No one wants to admit it? No? Okay. Let's move on to the next one. One of the things I saw... Sorry, there is something to the...
Sorry, I didn't want to respond to the last question, but I did want to make a comment. So,
okay, let's give you a microphone. This is not going to be a response to my last question, it's a comment. Let's give you that just to make sure everyone heard that.
yeah, I think it was maybe a response to the earlier question that you asked about what should we be doing. I'm a keen proponent of the biomass-based power systems, and particularly biomass to biogas using a digester. And whenever people say to me that wind and solar have it all, I always say yes, but they are not dispatchable. Whereas when you make biogas-based power systems, they are totally dispatchable. So my vision would always be that if the government could, or somebody could, or the power systems could just change the formula slightly for the power purchasing agreements to farmers, piggery owners, dairy farmers, energy crop growers, anybody of that nature, so that you had hundreds of these relatively small power generation facilities, 1, 2, 5 megawatts, etc., around the country. We have the control systems capable of managing those power systems in a totally dispatchable way. So that come the time it's middle of summer and everybody needs to turn their air conditioners on, you pull the reserve of biogas out of the top of the digester and pump that power into the grid. Come the time you don't need the power, those guys can power down and the wind and the solar can come up. That, to my mind, makes a wonderful three-cornered stool on which renewables could live. It's almost achievable now, but it needs just a slight tweaking for the feed-in tariff.
How would that compare with economically to something like, say, pumped hydro?
I think it will be cheaper than pumped hydro. I'm not sure what the economics are there, but I think it's competitive with solar and wind, or very close to competitive with
Is
it.
there a report on that in the site?
I don't know. And there are a lot of different economic studies done on the cost of biodigestion. One thing I do know is that there are over 10,000 biodigesters in Germany because they did subsidize the price of power into the grid. And I think they have probably got something of the order of 5 to 10% of their power generated from dairies, piggeries, and energy crops. And they only have one growing season a year, so it's achievable.
Okay, thank you for that.
There are some examples in Brazil for trains, and also in South Africa for marine diesel in bio and in terms of license, social license. But finally, it seems that the biomass for diesel is better than the marine diesel is better than the normal one. So there are good examples. In that case, if anyone needs information, send me an email. Okay, thank you.
Has anyone got an opinion on what the mining sector should be doing better? So let's assume your company is about to go out to look at your whole energy use, maybe look at doing a PPA. What is the sector doing wrong? Has anyone got an opinion on what the sector could do better? Emily, I talked to you last night at dinner. You had an opinion on this. Have you got an opinion on that?
I always have an opinion on that.
I like opinions, especially when this is quiet and the audience is this one. Yeah.
I do have an opinion on that, and based on my experience with it at South32. But I think actually that the mining industry overthinks it. They try to out-engineer the vendors, and to be quite honest, they're just wasting time and money. The vendors are very competent, they're experts in their field, they are power producers, that's what they do. And I think that actually mining companies hold the progress of the power industry and remote power solutions back by trying to engineer a solution and then ask vendors to price it, as opposed to going out to the vendors and saying, these are our needs, these are the power quality needs, this is our load profile, this is the demand requirement we have, and then giving the vendors the opportunity to design a solution for them. All that money and time you're spending on doing the engineering will be done effectively, sorry vendors, but for free through a tender process. And the competitive nature of IPPs means that they are constantly having to push the boundaries of what they're capable of delivering in order to have a competitive advantage. So just to make it simple.
Anyone else want to follow up with that? Gentlemen here. If you can give us your name and title, please. Thank you.
Ray Massey, Hydro Tasmania. So I'm not in the mining game specifically, but in the hybrid energy space, I've done quite a lot, and I guess I can see some similarities in the journey. I guess reinforcing some of the previous comments, the space of that renewable energy supply is becoming much more mature now. But the key thought would be don't assume the solution too much, specific technology. The key here is hybrid. Now, be that hybrid in the renewable space, the enabling technologies, energy storage for your stability requirements, on the financial side. There's no one single solution. Each site is going to have to, yes, do some homework. Biofuels, yes. If there's some indigenous options there, by all means, bring that into the mix. Get some base advice from people that can offer you some independent views. And yes, the market is becoming much more mature now in the solution, the provision of these solutions.
To take that further, someone yesterday spoke about the opportunity. Someone yesterday said, important that you can make it bespoke, as you've just said, but is there an opportunity to have more modular systems where we can make it a lot easier to roll stuff in and roll stuff out? What's your opinion?
I'm glad you asked. We actually went down that path ourselves for our own hybrid solutions. We operate with Bass-Strait Islands hybrid systems and realised that doing from scratch on site wasn't the way to go. I say bespoke, but it's really, yes, out of the tools on your shelf, which are the ones that will work on this particular project? Be that from a resource point of view, from the type of load profile you've got, those sorts of things, the longevity of the site. So not absolute from scratch, but learn from the market what are the tools available to be brought to your project.
I can see Simon's putting his hand up. Do you want to have an opinion on that modular side of things, Simon? Did you put your hand up? Sorry. No, you didn't. Sorry. Gentleman next to you.
I guess I feel for the mining companies at this point, because my observation would be, we talk about the mining industry, and if you're a big miner, it's very different to a small miner. If you're an M connected, or even a WEM connected, or an off-grid, the solutions are different. And even, you look at the large mining companies, they have a vast array of different mines with different needs. So it's really quite hard, I think, to say this is the one next step. I think the key thing I would suggest is you need to decide where it is on your priority list. Because if it's all about cost, then go through it in terms of the standard cost efficiency measures. Something different, then you need to think about how you're going to tackle that a bit differently. Because I think that's the point that we're at in this conversation is, I certainly heard the last 2 days, it still needs to wash its face in a cost perspective, but it also needs to be green. And at some point we're going to start saying, you know what, it needs to be green and wash its face in a cost perspective. So the order is going to change. That's my view.
Can you keep the microphone for a second? What do you think is holding the sector back from, in changing things? What's the business, from a business as usual point of view, what are the barriers stopping change, do you think, in the mining sector?
So my experience is that mining companies are run very lean, so they don't have a lot of resources sitting around trying to reinvent the future. So, in our experience, we're negotiating contracts with mining companies right now, and they can take months because it's not priority for them, because their priority is getting a couple of shipments out that have to be done by the 30th of June in order to make tonnage for this year. So that's the challenge that I think every organisation faces. I think it's unique to mining. So again, it is, at what point does it become more of a strategic driver than an operational driver?
Thank you for that. We'll break it start. Gentlemen over here.
Awesome. So I suppose just continuing that in terms of what's sort of preventing miners. I think actually what's quite exciting is if we look back at Energy and Mines 2017 and where we are today, quite a lot of the things that were discussed then, I believe, have largely been solved. So things around mine life, we now have modular solutions that can be relocated easily. We've really heard over the last couple of days that the economics are making a lot of sense. Need for single point accountability for power is very much understood. And I think, as a result, quite excitingly, business as usual is becoming, is hybrid. And really now it's just a matter of how much in terms of renewable energy contribution. So I think what I'd encourage us to be doing is, as we're entering into new contracts, for us to be shaping those contracts to allow for incremental hybridization during the contract term, as the economics of renewable energy and storage further improves, as people get more comfortable with the technologies, so that we can add to those systems over time. And I think a couple of opportunities that I see, I think, we've got diesel-only, gas-only systems out there in the field today, and we shouldn't be waiting for contract renewal in order to start implementing renewable energy solutions. It's not a valid excuse. And I think for new mines, really the opportunity is for us to change the paradigm in terms of designing a mine and then doing power plant as an afterthought, but actually saying, how can we design a mine to best utilize low-cost renewable energy? And you've got a few of the forward-thinking miners, such as Osmo Minerals, thinking about that in terms of West Musgrave, but I think there's a real opportunity there for the mining sector.
Gentleman back there.
I'm Jan Rotenon, UV. One thought on the wiser uptake, maybe taking a bit longer than expected with miners. One observation from my side, I'm an engineer myself, but I've spent so much time on the renewable side. I've realized that the engineering challenges and the modularity is already so much more advanced on the renewable side that it's probably difficult from a highly technical, highly risk-conscious engineering approach to embrace technology so detailed. So as Emily said, it's very often very prescriptive, highly over-engineered, and it takes time for the decision makers, the operators, to really believe it's that easy. I've just come back from Agno site visit. I've got the solar system there, and I did a tour then with the project manager for the gas turbine, and he said, well, when I looked at the solar, this is like nothing. It's so easy. We've got all that piping, all that. He showed me the high temperature ventilation, low temperature, all the oil reticulation, and that's just not there. There's engineering before him, but it's so much simpler. It's a bit of a transition in how you approach things.
Can I ask you a question while you've got the microphone? What do you think are the gaps in the technology and financial solutions that are being provided? You got an opinion on that?
I think the technology on the renewable side, and of course I'm biased, I've been doing renewables now for the last 20 years, it is there, and it's highly competitive. I think on the financial side, there is a gap. A lot of the operators here now, the off-takers, really want to know who is my counterparty, and at an early stage, and that limits, in my view, the optimization on the financial side. So in the renewable energy world, grid connected, it's different. Projects are developed, and then at the late stage, the lowest cost of capital is brought in to own that project, and it's de-risked. Here at an early stage, maybe a mine runs a tender and only allows IPPs with a track record in that space to participate, and naturally that limits your ability to attract lower cost capital.
Anyone else got another opinion on what they think is missing that's maybe stopping you from making a move? Anyone got an opinion? All right. One of the things that I'm interested in is I've been talking to a number of companies around the world on renewables, and they're now starting to look at projects that they couldn't look at before because energy was too expensive. And they were looking at it thinking, well, it might work now, but if energy goes up, this is not going to be viable going forward. We're seeing with renewables, the cost just keeps coming down. Given that a lot of our resources get exported, is there potential, do you think, for, if you look at the materials that we're pulling out of the ground here, say in WA, where you've got huge solar and wind potential, what is the potential, do you think, to actually make that, you have domestic processing here in Australia? Has anyone got an opinion on that? Some of you've got an opinion on that, I think, and we've talked about this in the past.
Yeah, no, I believe the government is definitely on the right track. And when you look around the world, you look at Iceland, what Iceland's done, which is effectively nothing but geothermal and hydro, now a bit of wind. You look at what's happening in Norway, where they are blessed with the hydro, but now with the wind. You compare it to where so much of the processing has been done, and I don't think the Bloomberg business here today. If you look at China, I think China's got some very large challenges coming up in the next 20, 30 years to continue to be a major processing hub. So I can't see why Western Australia doesn't come in behind us. It will need some government policy, particularly around transmission and pulling something out of what's happened on the East Coast with the integrated system plan. You actually do need system planning, and I think that's what we've all now learned. As one of the people of parasites ridden on the back of the liberalisation of the power sector the last 25 years. The bit we got wrong globally is we didn't plan enough. And we let the power industry effectively do things, as we've seen on the East Coast, it's been called chaos, or even worse. To achieve this in Western Australia, you want to be proximate to where the minerals are, you want to be looking to put as much resource and capturing the resource down from Bunbury South, but in a way which achieves social licence. You don't want to do this in a way that actually the resources industry loses social licence because you have runaway renewables development which is unplanned.
You mentioned, keep the microphone if you can, you mentioned Bloomberg just then. Yesterday they gave a presentation where they talked about hydrogen, and they didn't seem to be that upbeat on it. You had a different opinion on that. What would you think was not right there?
Well, I think by quite a few people in the room, quite a lot. It wasn't what I thought was their finest moment, but I can say that. I thought they threw hydrogen under the bus. I also thought they threw Western Australian mineral processing under the bus, because they actually compared historical energy prices rather than putting their own forward curves and what Western Australian wind will produce, like Yandon and the costs that are coming through. I just think they got it wrong yesterday, and missed what the audience was both looking for. I see the potential for what people like Asia Renewable Hub are doing. Today you have Jackie Trad in Gladstone announcing further Queensland support for hydrogen. It's not there yet, but neither was solar 5 years ago. Even when ARENA came out, this funding now, 3 years ago, solar was at $200 with PPAs when Simon signed PPAs in ACT. And look how quickly we moved. I think it's just a matter of, do we come together to support the growth of this industry? And that's what I'm excited by, what we're seeing, the level of different stakeholders on, what people, Adrian got here on Tuesday, seems a while ago, was an amazing range of different stakeholders from your Totals with your Siemens. That's, I think, the strength of hydrogen, the number of large companies and the range of stakeholders.
Thanks.
Whenever there's talk about hydrogen, I have to step in. So, Warner Priest from Siemens. Regarding that particular question that you raised, I think there's a great opportunity for us in Australia to not only mine our resource, but also be processing it and using renewables to do that. And showing the provenance of that renewable resource, that mineral that we mine using green energy, because that is likely to in the future have more value in the market than when it's produced from non-renewables. So I think a great opportunity for us not only to mine, but to localize the transformation of that resource into some product rather than shipping it off to China or wherever. So good opportunity there for us. And obviously hydrogen playing a big role in that.
I've got multiple hands being put up. It's been painful up there.
I would just caution, it's easy to say let's downstream process here, but if you look at what we're going to have to do in terms of getting rid of waste out of Kwinana, with that downstream processing in Kemerton, I was told the million tonnes of waste we're going to have to take out of Kemerton to process the lithium there. The greater opportunity is why do we move the processing back to where the mines are? The challenge there is there's about a 1-for-1 tonne relationship with reagents. So then you have to move the reagents back up. Is there an industry to create reagents next to the mines with the processing? Great opportunity. But back to Alan's point, if you try and do that in Kalgoorlie, there's not enough power. There's constraints in the transmission lines. So it comes back to there's some government policy required and some real strategic thinking, which is above a single mine that they can make, or a single company can make all of those decisions.
Thanks for that. I'm going to ask the last question, and then I'll hand over to Adrian for a wrap-up. We've heard a lot about renewables, we've heard a lot about storage. What are the other technologies that some of you might be looking at, or has anyone got an opinion on what other technologies apart from renewables and storage that we might want to look at? Anyone got an opinion on that? Over here?
Thanks. So I suppose, we've heard over the last couple of days from Louis Kent at BHP around fleet electrification, so that's obviously a big one. And I think the work that the ICMM's Innovation for Cleaner, Safer Vehicles is really good. Obviously, hydrogen, big opportunity, and I think if we look at the CSIRO roadmap for hydrogen, you've got competitiveness being realised in both trucking and remote area power systems in a sort of horizon of 3 to 5 years. So I think those are pretty close. So is any other technologies that people want to chip in?
Anyone else got an opinion on other technologies?
Yeah. Solar thermal.
Solar thermal over here, anyone else?
No, but basically, you better know than me. Basically, solar thermal, because it's 2 times better efficiency than solar PV. Just another question. Maybe it's a good model or not, but in Chile, for the market of lithium, the government says 25% of this lithium must be processed here inside or to prepare for cells. Maybe it could be not a solution.
So you think government policy is something?
Yeah, it could be possible. Okay. I don't know, that depends on the country, the politicians.
So we've got 2 final people here, and then we'll hand over to Adrian.
Yes, I have another crazy one to think about. So where we have hydrogen production from renewables, we also produce another byproduct, which is 100% pure oxygen. And if we can direct that oxygen into oxygenation, or to hospitals, or to aqua farming, there's another area that we could potentially direct what would typically be waste to atmosphere, good for the atmosphere, but something that we can do something with and has value.
Thank you. Final person over there.
I'm Jan again. So not so much a particular technology, but to actually look at how is the resource or are the resources mined. So and I think a lot of mines are working on that. It's a host of technologies looking at can you actually adjust your loads to better fill the generation profile? Can you run your camps differently? Are you automating more? So and we Will is doing a lot of work with mines to look at the mine of the future that probably looks at a very different design from the outset. So not only look at the back end, energy as an afterthought, and then see that that fits your process, but design the mine from the outset to a certain energy that you have available.
I like your idea of like, what does the future mine look like? I think to wrap up from my point of view, I just want to say that I think Adrian, you've done a brilliant job on pulling all this together. So if we can give a round of applause to Adrian. So I think what you've done, which I think is really important, is it's all well and good for people like me to say, please join RE100, obviously, but you've actually achieved that. And it's very hard unless we're sharing information with each other. One of the great things about RE100 is that we actually bring different companies together and get them on the same phone call so people share experiences with each other about how they've brought about change. Because if you're starting out and you haven't done it before, it's a really hard process to do it, but if you can learn from other people, that makes it a whole lot easier. And as we've seen in the last couple of days, the economics of renewables now make so much sense that if you're not actively looking for PPAs, if you're not actively looking at the opportunities for renewables, either in your existing mining operations or future mining operations, you're missing out on bottom line benefits for your company. And also, we're missing out on opportunities to make our mining sector even more efficient and more economic than it is now. So, Adrian, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Please join me in giving John a round of applause. It's not an easy job, but I really like that format of not having panelists and just relying on you, the audience, to make our job a lot easier. So thank you to all of you for joining us at this third annual event. It's been a great 3 days. We have a button on the app that says presentations, so you can already download presentations there, but we will send you an email and ask for your feedback on the event, and also give you a link where you can download the materials from the conference. Thank you to UV, our official partner, and to all of our sponsors and exhibitors. And we will look forward to being back next year in Perth. And our next stop is Toronto, this December 2nd to 4th. So thank you very much.